how the spaces that we live in are not neutral. They quite shape how we feel, how we interact, and even how confident and vulnerable we become. And the strange part is, most of the time, we don't even realize that the space that we live in are affecting us. It doesn't only affect us emotionally, but mentally and behaviorally as well. The spaces we inhabit quietly shape the way we think, we interact, we learn, and we live, and eventually what we become. I began noticing this decades ago, at least more than a decade ago, when I first arrived from a small town in Bihar to the capital city of Delhi. It was my first encounter with a city of a scale like the capital, and also it was my first encounter with a formal schooling. Before that, I never went to school. When I arrived in Delhi, the road felt endless, the traffic was very aggressive, everything moved so fast that I can't even comprehend, how to respond to it. And then, the next day, I saw my school building the first time. It was just a 3-story building, but it was very overpowering for me. First time I've seen the space of that scale. And then, I still remember quietly that I was standing there and trying to understand this entirely new world that I stepped into. And while I was doing so, I was thinking through it, about the whole space and the ecosystem. I stepped into something that fascinated me till date, the classroom. So, the classroom. So if you notice, most of our classrooms are designed in a way that permanently, puts some of the students at the back seat, some on the front seat, and then we are told, don't be a backbencher, be a front bencher. But this also fascinated me, how can you design a space that automatically places some of the students at the back benches and ask them not to be on the back benches, be more interactive, and all of those things. So I was wondering about that thing. I was curious about all of these setup. And then I was also wondering, why do spaces silently decide who participates and who disappears? So by design, the thing was that, but at that age, I didn't have the language to question these things. I didn't have the ability to articulate or ask people around, So that was the curiosity. Then years later, when it was time to decide upon my career, what to do and what else. So essentially, engineering and medicine never resonated with me, what kind of thing I wanted to do. I was very much interested in technology. I was interested in design. I wanted to build new things, but at the same time, I wanted to understand people. And then, in this exploration, I discovered architecture. That kind of, to me, explored all of these domains and connected the dots that later on in my career, I realized that those questions as a teenagers were not random, but it was something to do with how the space design, the environment design affects our well-being, the way buildings, the building shape behavior, the cities shape emotions, the classroom shapes confidence. In fact, this stage has an impact on me because generally I do the interactive sessions, and right now I have to do one way, so it has a big impact on me right now. So that's how the space design impacts you. And then I realized that architecture then doesn't become just something where you develop a structure and do the interior designs, but it becomes more like a human experience design than something that to do with the construction or the engineering. Over the years, that understanding started reflecting onto how I design building, how I approach the architectural projects. Can you change the slide? This is the building that I first came to, Jamia Millia Islamia Senior Secondary School. Can you move the slide again? So, move again. So this is the setup generally we have in the classrooms. We have front bench and back bench. We'll talk about it later in the slide. Move again. The other thing that I noticed in the conventional schools, back then when I was in school, that there was endless linear corridor that felt like a controlled pipeline of obedience to me, that you have to move like this, you have to move like that. But what I missed, but there was no curiosity, there was no space for collaboration, even though by rule, by instruction, students were, asked to collaborate with on the project and stuff, but the whole design of the space never, never was conducive to that kind of setup. So to me, it was like now what I call it is the factories of obedience, where you are, we are supposed to move certain way. You are put in a square boxes where you don't have any option but to choose from first benches or last benches. So later on, while exploring a school project, I realized that what if we change the whole idea of the school design spaces, and that made me think about rethinking about the school design. So I proposed something I call a beehive design, learning from the wisdom of beehives, how they build their structure that is not only efficient. If you know, the hexagon is the most efficient space where you use least material to store maximum volume. So if we learn from the nature, I realized that beehives doesn't only designs and construct the most efficient structure possible to store honey, but they are the most collaborative and community-driven creatures in the world. So that made me rethink about if we have to design something that is efficient as well as collaborative and community-driven, we need to take inspiration from the beehive. And then I proposed a design of the classroom that is not a square or rectangle, but a hexagon. What it does, it has a lot of possibility. It can expand in any direction. It is climatically responsible. It uses less material. It is collaborative in nature. And then the school design was proposed in a way that creates the clusters of different grades. So for example, you have little hive there, you have upper hive, you have middle, so that students can interact with each other by design, not by rules and regulations. So for example, if you see those cubes, they are an interactive court in between all the clusters, so that if you come out of the classroom, you automatically have to interact with the other fellows and teachers and everybody around in the school. So then I thought, why can't we rethink the school environment as a learning community? Why can't students think to be in an environment where they are collaborating and they are into a learning community setup rather than endless corridor and those kind of forced environment where they just cannot interact with each other. So that's how the new system can be built. That's we are building, inshallah. So this is the layout that you see there is one of the upcoming schools that we are doing. It's clustered around the courtyard, open to sky and open to each other. So that's why how we need to facilitate students and teachers to interact with each other by giving them spaces that's conducive to the interaction and not restrict them into the pipelines. This is the model, if you see there, the collaborative courtyard environment that forces you, or I would say not forces you, but inspires you to be collaborative and produce works and help each other that is better for humanity rather than only competing with each other. Next. These are some of the examples how the hexagonal classroom helps with the collaboration, flexibility, and it makes you more participative even if you don't want to. That's how the space design can impact your well-being from school itself. Then I realized something else while doing the project, school program in general, that design is never passive, but it's a very it's a very active thing that we don't realize how it shapes the behavior. For example, in urban centers, we feel we are very connected. We have these vertical developments that makes us feel more like we are connected, but we don't know each other well. We are not, because of the nature of the design, even if we stay wall to wall, we don't really know each other, we don't interact with each other because of the most of the time the density is higher, but the belongingness is not there. So that's the reason I started questioning the whole urban centers and the urban design thing, that how we approach. Most of the time we approach urban design in a way that we think of efficiency of traffic, efficiency of resources, housing communities, we think of the maximum density we can develop in one small place, and that is a very big cost that we have to pay. That we have started building very smart building, state-of-art, automated, by using the artificial intelligence and automation systems. We have very convenient, friendly, we are top-notch on convenient. We are very smart that way in efficiency, but along the way we have lost the human factor to design our spaces. The spaces, they're the wiser. I'm not against the smart building and stuff, but we have our eyes on the smartness and efficiency everywhere, including building. What we need to do is now integrate that with a wiser environment that restores dignity, that encourages reflection, that strengthens the community, that reconnects us with nature. Let humans breathe again. The point of reconnect us with nature is very important, because what I've realized over the year, that whenever I step into the nature, even though I have been in the metropolitan city most of my life, I realize that every time I step into the nature, it reconnects. I feel peace. I feel at home for some mysterious reason. I am sure all of you must have experienced that. And then I came to understand the idea of fitra. It's an Arabic terminology that means your innate nature. The good thing, the interesting thing about the fitra is every creature on this earth has same innate nature, has same blueprint that is in us human being. That's the reason the moment we step into the nature, we feel at home, even if we have not experienced it much. So that made me think that if we have to develop a community, we have to develop an environment that is conducive to our own innate nature, we have to think in a wise way. We have to think of a wiser environment rather than just having a smart systems. Can we have next slide? So I proposed starting working with a community of homestays that's called Earth. It's coming from the Arabic root Earth, for earth, and it's the acronym for Earth-Rooted Design and Habitat. So what we are exploring with the project is that how might we develop a community where we don't just focus on efficiency of resources and speed and accuracy, but we inculcate the human factor to it. What it means that if we have a community that is spread around a community common space where we have homes, we do the learning, we have livestock, we have market, we grow our own food there, and we have a learning system. I've written school for the reference, but what I mean is the learning system that is integrated into lifestyle rather than having a different education setup altogether that we have right now. So I think we need to do away with the standardization of everything and more human and organic in learning also. Can we move? This is one of the graphics that envisions the idea where we have a house, and then around the house we have gathering space, we have our the farming, and then at each junction we have a community gathering space that inspires us automatically by design to interact with each other. So you come out of your house and you have this common space to sit. So that automatically facilitates the interaction between people instead of isolating them. So what we have realized that if we start focusing on belonging and meaning, apart from the convenience and consumption, we are very good with consumption and convenience, but we are lacking most of the time the belongingness and and the meaning behind what we do, how we design, how we live. So this is a zoomed in view of the creative, common community state. Yeah. So this junction that you see, that's a zoom in view of the, go back. Can you go back to the slide? Like, yeah. This is how we envision the community interaction, rather than having the fancy villa community where everything is polished, inspired by the Western country mostly, rather than having a practical solutions where you have prayer space, you have community kitchen, you have the farm nearby, so you have the pure and fresh food right away. Can you move? So that was the insight that I wanted to share. I would come back to the idea that when I started thinking about this, back then I didn't have any idea about what I'm thinking. I was very underconfident. I didn't even share that time. But that was a seed that planted in my ear, how the space affects our well-being and what we became. So eventually, the question that I had in my school time made me discover architecture and become one. And now, alhamdulillah, I'm trying to practice and implement the same thing. So now, what I feel, the design environment, we need to design environment that help us become more human. We can do away with the less smartness, but we need to have spaces that are more human in nature. That brings me back to the couplet that I shared. वही जहाँ है तेरा जिसे तू करे पैदा, ये संगो खिश्त नहीं जो तेरी निगाह में है. Loosely is translated to your world is the one that you consciously create. It is not merely brick and stone and materials that you have. It becomes what the vision allows you, like your vision allows it to become. Thank you.